Hello everybody, welcome to our next session. In this video, we are basically going to discuss about some of the commonly used definitions of democracy and thereafter about the difference between democracies and non-democracies with the help of the case studies which are given in your chapter, and finally we'll be concluding with the types of democracy. Okay, so let's get started. By now, I think, children, you know that democracy has got its origin from the Greek word which means people's rule. This is very much in line with the modern definition of democracy given by Abraham Lincoln. Who was Abraham Lincoln? He was one of the presidents of USA. In fact, he was the 16th president of USA. And he defined democracy as the government by the people, for the people, and of the people. We'll be using this simple definition to differentiate between a democratic setup and a non-democratic setup, and of course with the help of the case studies as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so our first case study is about a country which was previously known as Burma. Can you guess which country am I talking about? It is located in Southeast Asia and it shares its boundaries with 5 countries of the world. India is one of them. It shares its boundaries with countries like India, Bangladesh, China, Laos, and even Thailand. Can you guess which country am I talking about? You're right. We are talking about Myanmar. Myanmar is basically the official name of Burma. Today we do not call Burma, we say Myanmar. So earlier Myanmar was controlled by the army, and the people living in the country did not have the right to vote. They did not elect their representatives. And only those people could come into power who had control over the army. As such, we had a sort of a military dictatorship in the country. And there was one lady who fought against all this, and she fought for almost 20 years of her life. She spent in the house arrest. Can you name that lady? She is the most loved women politician of Burma. And in 1991, she was given the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you guess? Now this is one of the tasks which I am giving you. So you have to find out the name of this great lady who fought for 20 years, who spent 20 precious years of her life in house arrest just to win over democracy. So who was she? So this is one of your works. You are going to do it. Next when we meet, I'll be asking you for that. Okay, now we come to the next case study, and the next case study is very much in line with the case study that you see in your first chapter. And if you just go through your first chapter of your civics book, you come across a name of a military dictator. His name was General Pinochet, and he belonged to a country called Chile. We are not talking about the chilies which you have in home. Rather, we are talking about the country Chile. Where is it located? It is located in South Asia, Southeast. It is located in South America. Okay, so this General Pinochet was a dictator. He was a military dictator. People feared him, and he ruled for 17 long years, and all throughout he was a symbol of terror for the people of Chile. They hated him like anything, but they did not have anything at hand. They could not say anything. They could not speak against his authority because they very well knew that if they speak, they will be punished, and punished severely. And he was such a sort of a person who massacred, who brutally killed large number of people, especially those who talked in favor of democracy. So again, we cannot call this a democratic setup. It was a military dictatorship. Okay, now I think something must be coming in your mind. I think it's very much in line with the history chapter which is going on, the French Revolution. And when you talk about the French Revolution, you come across the name of Louis the 16th. Who was he? He was the monarch of France before 1789. Okay, so the next example we are quoting of a monarchy. What is a monarchy? Monarchy is a form of government where kings rule just because they belong to the royal family. They have all the powers in their hands, and all the powers are concentrated in their hands, and the people have no right to speak against their authority. And whatever they want to do, they will do. They will impose their, you can say, wishes over the people. And anybody who speaks against their authority shall be severely punished. Okay, talking about the monarchies, can you think about some of the countries which still follow the monarchical form of government? Yes, you're right. We can talk about Saudi Arabia. It is a monarchical form of government. Kings rule there just because they are born in a royal family. And if you look close to your one of the neighboring countries, that is Nepal, isn't it? So we can talk the same about Nepal, that Nepal was a monarchy for quite a long time, and you'll be surprised that almost for 247 years Nepal was a monarchy. And 2005 there comes a person whose name was King Gyanendra. And what he does, he takes over all the powers in his hands. He dismisses the parliament, the democratic setup of the country, and dissolves the political parties, take over the control of the country in his hands, and starts dictating terms to the people, just like any other king, any other monarch would do. He starts doing like this again. People hate him, they don't like him, and at the same time they are uh, helpless. They cannot speak against the ruler because they very well know again that if they speak they have to pay for the consequences. But ultimately, what do we see? Such things do not end for a long time. He comes in 2005, and in 2008 he has to vacate his office, and monarchy is abolished from Nepal. And today, if we talk about Nepal, Nepal today is a federal republic. Okay, another question comes for you. Just try to find out the name of the present president of Nepal. Today, we have federal republic. We have a democratic setup in Nepal. Okay, now this is one more task for you. Okay, till now we came to know the difference between a non-democratic setup and a democratic setup on the lines of the feature that democracies are the people's rule, that democracies are elected by the people. Democracies are the government where people elect their representatives. Now coming to the next topic of your chapter, that is the different types of democracies. There can be several types of democracies, but we will take up two, you can say, two main types of democracies. One is known as representative democracy, and the other one is known as a direct democracy. Now, what is the representative democracy? The name is only telling you representative. That means the people elect their representatives. They give their vote, exercise their right to universal adult franchise, and on the basis of the votes of the people, the government is decided. The representatives are elected. It is basically the people giving the authority in the hands of these representatives whom they elect to rule over the country on their behalf, take decisions on their behalf. And if you talk about India, so India comes in the category of representative democracy. Okay. In contrast to representative democracy, we have the direct democracy. Do you remember when I talked about the history of democracy. And when I told you the example of Athens and how the people there, they played a very important role in participating in important decisions of the government. Yes, that type of government where each and every citizen participates in the decision making of the country, participates in the government matters, participates in the decision of the country, is known as a direct democracy. Okay, now if you look around, we can quote one more example out here apart from Athens, and that is the example of Switzerland. Switzerland is not a representative form of government, rather, we can call it as a direct democracy. Here, 5 million people, can you imagine that 5 million people exercise their right to voice their likes or dislikes in the matters of the government. Okay, and on the basis of what the people say, decisions are taken. Even on very, very important matters, like it can be the matter related to framing of a new constitution, it can be a matter related to some important law or some important policy matters. So every citizen of this country has been given the right to express his views and ideas. He express his opinion as to what he feels, whether right or wrong, and on the same the government shall take the decision. And such type of decisions, or you can say such type of meetings, take place almost 2 to 4 times in a year. So Switzerland can be called as a direct democracy in contrast to representative democracy. But there is one problem. It is a good form of government, because we see that the people are participating in such important matters as far as taking important decisions of the country. But such type of, you can say, setups are only possible where the population is small. But if you talk about countries like India, where the population is quite high, this type of setup will not work. It only works in places with small population. It is not possible for the people of our country to every time meet and participate in the decision making and do. And that is why our government decided to opt for a representative form of government. I'm sure that in this video you have been able to understand the basic definitions of democracy, and at the same time you have been able to understand the different case studies which are related to this basic feature of democracy, which says that democracy is the people's rule. But again one question comes to our mind. If we take it for granted, can we take this feature blindly, that democracy is the people's rule, or all the governments where elections are conducted can be considered as democracies? Immediately the answer would come as no. We cannot say that the countries which conduct elections are maybe democracies, for sure. No. For example, in case of Pakistan, or if you take the case of China, regular elections are conducted, but we cannot call them democracies. So bye till the next video, and in our next video we are going to discuss more about the features of democracy and dig deep into exploring the definition of democracy further and finding out more features of democracy which are required for becoming a democracy in the true sense. Till then, bye.